All of this happening against the backdrop of Republican primary voters last night delivering another warning for Donald Trump. In Nebraska and Maryland, Nikki Haley, who dropped out of the presidential race 2 months ago, won about 20% of the vote. And in deep red West Virginia, Nikki Haley got nearly 10% of all the Republican votes. Again, 2 months after she dropped out.
Is real. I think the Nikki Haley factor is real. You look at it, Indiana's a small state. By the way, it's Mike Pence's home state. It's a red state. Went for Trump in 16, went for Trump in 2020. 11 electoral votes, so not a huge number there. But still, if he's missing out on 100,000 votes in a state like that, and then 155,000 in Pennsylvania 2 weeks ago, you can't tell me that he doesn't have a problem with Nikki Haley voters.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Say the fact that upwards of 20% of Republican voters continuing to vote for a candidate who's dropped out months ago is a problem. But evidently, it's not as big as a problem as Biden wearing hokas, which, I mean, that is what the American people actually care about, right?
Nikki Haley has made an unholy alliance with rhinos, never-Trumpers, Americans for no prosperity. Did you ever hear of Americans for no prosperity? Globalists and radical left communists to get liberals and Biden supporters to vote for her in the Republican primary.
In keeping with this theme, Donald Trump on his social media site, Truth Social, wrote, quote, Nikki Birdbrain Haley, that's his clever nickname for her, is very bad for the Republican Party and indeed our country. Anybody that makes a contribution to Birdbrain from this moment forth will be permanently barred from the MAGA camp.
So as news broke on Tuesday that Donald Trump is continuing to see huge warning signs because of the fact that just about 20% of Republican voters are voting for Nikki Haley, despite the fact that she dropped out months ago. She hasn't spent one penny on an ad. She hasn't done one rally. She hasn't given one speech. But these people are still motivated enough to show up and show their disdain for the Republican nominee, Donald Trump, and vote against him by voting for Nikki Haley.
But look, he has to win Nikki Haley voters. And they're not necessarily Nikki Haley loyalists to her specifically. Some of them are. But it's depending on what state you're looking at, maybe 1/5 of Republican voters say they're not comfortable with Trump. They want it to be someone else. They're still voting for her sort of out of protest, even though she's been out of the race for the better part of, 2 months at this point. Those people are going to be essential to a Trump victory coalition.
Nikki Haley got 20% of the vote in Maryland, 17.9% in Nebraska, and 9.4% in West Virginia on Tuesday. Huge, significant numbers of Republicans not wanting Donald Trump to become the Republican nominee.
Primary, but Nikki Haley attained 16% of the vote. Are you concerned about that number? And what do you say to those voters?
Well, that's a very small number. All of those people are going to come to me.
Well, former President Trump capturing Indiana's Republican nomination Tuesday. Voters in the Hoosier state going to the polls to cast their ballots in the state's presidential and some state primaries. Trump secured 58 GOP delegates. Nikki Haley won nearly 22% of the vote, despite dropping out in March.
And while all this was happening, they were holding a primary election in Indiana. Obviously, Trump won on the Republican side because he's the only Republican running. But once again, a lot of votes were cast for Nikki Haley, who dropped out 2 months ago. Nikki Haley disappeared at the beginning of March, and she still took home more than 20% of the vote, which means either a large chunk of Indiana voters are not planning to vote for Trump, or Mike Pence voted 128,000 times.
So what did Trump do to court the Nikki Haley voters this week? Not a lot. In fact, the MAGA GOP came out in full force to not help run the country or represent their constituents, but they showed up in a New York criminal courtroom to defend Donald Trump, who is on trial for paying hush money payment to a porn star in order to help win his 2016 election. Do any of them, does Donald Trump or any Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson and the rest of them that showed up, think this is a way to help those voters, those Nikki Haley voters who are so upset with the idea of Donald Trump becoming their president that they're taking time and effort out of their day to show up to the poll and vote for somebody no longer in the race? These MAGAs are making it very obvious that they don't care about the Nikki Haley voter.
Trump easily won the state's primary. However, Nikki Haley, who suspended her campaign, still got more than 156,000 votes, nearly 17% among Republicans.
But clearly Trump has still got a Nikki Haley problem. Why hasn't Haley come out and actually endorsed Trump yet?
I would disagree with you on that, Rob. I don't think there's a alleged Nikki Haley problem. Again, a lot of these
I'm
votes,
just basing that on what we saw in Pennsylvania. 17% is a significant percentage of the vote in Pennsylvania for Nikki Haley.
But there are millions and millions of people, more than 100 million people who will vote on November the 5th, and they will determine the election. And there's 6 months to go. Yeah. And there's a great case to be made about why they should vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. And the story that the media, unfortunately, is not covering is that uncontested vote in Pennsylvania. The fact that Joe Biden's base is the one that is actually very fractured. You see these Palestinian protests erupting on college campuses across the country. Jewish Americans are rightfully upset with how Biden has handled the war in Israel. You see African Americans moving towards President Trump by historic margins that we've never seen for a Republican candidate before. He's winning Hispanic Americans right
Caroline,
now.
just quickly, would Trump accept, because 80,000 votes is what decided Biden and Trump in Pennsylvania in 2020. It was 46,000 with Hillary Clinton in 2016. Would Trump accept the Haley endorsement? Just about 15 seconds.
I'll let the president speak on that himself. But our team is focused on bringing in voters of all stripes, Republicans, independents, disillusioned Democrats. If you want to make this country great again, stop Joe Biden's destruction, then you have to join Team Trump.
Haley voters, some of them voted for you in 2020, but say they don't want to now.
Oh, they'll all vote for me.
How do you bring them back into the
They're going to all vote for me again. They're going to all vote for me again, everybody. And I'm not sure we need too many.
Nikki Haley attained 16% of the vote. Are you concerned about that number? And what do you say to those voters?
And she got 16%. I got a record number. I got the highest vote ever attained in the state. And all of those people are going to come to me because first of all, what's their choice?
But, a party who does care about the Nikki Haley voter is President Joe Biden. And he has reached out to them several times. But Donald Trump, that would be easy for him. These are already Republican voters. It's his narcissistic ego who's unwilling to reach out to these Republican voters. And they notice that. And that's why they're voting against him in these primaries.
I know who I'm not going to vote for.
Who are you?
I will not vote for Donald Trump. I can't associate myself with the Republican Party under Donald Trump. I agree wholeheartedly. The Trump we're seeing now is a completely different Trump than Trump of 2016 and even 2020. He's running a campaign strictly for revenge. I think he poses a clear threat to our democracy, our institution.
You had voted for Trump in the past, though.
Yes.
What was it that turned you away?
2016 Trump, 2020 Trump, 2024 Trump are very different people.
What's different about 2024 Trump?
A lot of people that have worked for him in the past say they won't come back. Obviously, January 6th happened. A lot of indictments have happened. And to be honest with you, I don't know that he wants my vote. Or those of us that supported Nikki Haley has been pretty clear.
Anything but Trump.
That was your priority.
That's my priority.
Is that the biggest reason you supported Nikki Haley?
Yeah, I'd say.
Because of Donald Trump?
Yes. Yeah.
I would vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump in a heartbeat.
I am.
What do you do when that is in? If he is the nominee and he and Joe Biden, what do you do?
I vote for Joe Biden.
Threat to the well-being of our country.
She drops out. Would you be disappointed if she endorsed Trump?
He does. I'll vote Democrat.
No.
That's all there is to it.
It's important to me to keep Trump out of office again. Project 2025, I've read it. I've studied it. It's scary. It's frightening.
I've lived in a constitutional democracy all my life. I want to remain that way, and I want my grandchildren to grow up in one. Not a dictatorship.
And I'm curious, over the last two elections, have you voted Trump in the past? Was it something where you voted for him, you trusted him, and you were disappointed?
Yes, I voted for him in 2016. I am a registered Republican, and I regretted that vote almost immediately.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch newsletter at MidasTouch.com/newsletter.